I just got a picture of Colin waking up at 2 a.m. Where is that donut? Just throw it.
Welcome to the Ancestral Mind Podcast. My name is Colin Stuckert, founder and CEO of Wild Foods Co. and the ancestralmind.com. This is where we cover all things health from an ancestral perspective. I want to help you build an ancestral mind so you can think about the decisions you make on a daily basis while considering the first principles of what makes you human, or Brent, the sexy beast you are.
Yeah, more than human, beyond human.
We are here today.
I'm almost 2 humans if you really think about it. 2
sexy humans fit into one Brent. We are here today with Logan Sneed, founder of FusionLean.com. He's on a mission to help people. You know what, Logan, why don't you tell people what you're on a mission to do?
I'm on a mission to create the best version of myself and help millions, if not billions, quintillions create the best version of themselves because that's my day-to-day goal, and I want other people doing the same thing. Awesome.
So Logan's got a great story. We're going to get into it. It's a story. That's all I'll say about it. I'll let him kind of explain that. We're going to talk about keto. We're going to talk about keto misconceptions. We're going to talk about Logan's version of keto versus the everyman version of keto or the average YouTuber's version of keto. There's a lot of different ways to do it. So we're going to talk about a lot of that. We're going to talk about keto misconceptions. We're going to talk about keto mistakes. We're going to talk about real food, which is something that I'm fond of. And we're going to talk about how Logan uses kind of a keto real food way of eating that's a little bit different than your average keto guru. Does that sound about right?
Yes, sir. Let's do it.
So let's, we got ad, right? Why don't you read the ad today, Brent? Because I'm usually the one doing the ad.
We have an ad? I didn't even know we had an outline.
Oh, you didn't pull up the outline?
No, I'm sorry. This episode is brought to you by Wild Foods Co., where you can get your real food, real ingredients, real time. Join us at wildfoods.co. Use the code AMP.
No, AM Podcast 12.
AM Podcast 12, and you'll receive 12% off your order.
You should have a side gig doing voiceover commercials. I mean, right?
Yeah.
Like, let's hear about it, guys. Like, shoot your Brent support to info@wildfoods.co, new subject podcast. And also, again, thank you, Brent, for that off-the-cuff Wild Foods ad. We are sponsored by Wild Foods. Make sure you use the code AMPodcast12 for 12% off your entire order.
That's what I said.
At wildfoods.co.
I said that too.
Link below.
Maybe you didn't know.
Exactly. Let's get right into it. We're going to cover a little bit Logan's journey, a little bit of his story, and then we're going to get into the meats and not potatoes, but let's say meat and veggies of the keto diet. And let's just start right now with like where it all started. Logan, paint us a picture of what you were kind of doing before, and then what that big thing that happened was, what happened soon after that. And then Brent and I will kind of throw in questions here and there because this is all new to Brent. I've heard it a few times. Our audiences, maybe they haven't heard about you at all. But first, actually, where can they follow you? Where's the best place to follow Logan?
Yes, Instagram is Logan_FusionLean, and then YouTube is Logan Sneed.
Go ahead, guys. Get on both of those right now. Subscribe, watch a few videos. Help him with his mission, because like what we talk about on the Ancestral Mind, we're here to help as many people as possible kind of wake up to the dangers of our modern world. And Logan is really living and breathing that mission. And so we want to help support him reach as many people as possible. Okay, so Logan, how did it all start for you?
Let's start with 400 carbs a day, donuts, tacos, pizza, smoothies, 1,000-calorie protein shakes. Wanted to be a swole Hulk. Wanted to get the good, ladies. Man, you look good. You're looking swole. That's all I wanted. Mm-hmm. Then randomly one day had a seizure.
How old were you?
I was 19 years old, almost 20.
And you were lifting. Damn. You were like
I was going
college.
What
was this?
I was a freshman in college. Had the woman of my dreams. I was like swole. Had a little business going. I was like, man, I'm the real deal, And then voila, boom. Randomly driving one day, I was on the phone with her and then had a seizure first time in my life. Obviously, we had to figure out what the heck that was, but I was unconscious and I just woke up at the hospital. Had to do some MRIs. They said, you literally have an egg in your head. It was a full tumor. So a full brain tumor. The thing had to get removed. Of course, when that happens, you get it removed. I'm like, it's probably just nothing really, mm-hmm. There's nothing bad that could happen to me. Mm-hmm. And it was pretty bad. It was stage 4 glioblastoma brain tumor. There are probably some people on here knows what that is, but it's the most malignant there is. So that was the tumor. And then from there, I was told, you have about 1 to 10 years left in your lifespan.
Even if you get it removed? Damn. Like, what did they say?
Yeah, even if
it's like, okay, you have this tumor. Now, here's next step. If we do this thing, it's only a maybe. I'm sure to protect their asses, they said, oh, maybe we'll help or whatever, right? But
No, I'm being straight up. They said there's nothing that we could do.
Well, so then didn't you have surgery though?
I did. It was after surgery is when they said this.
Okay, so but they first try to get rid of it, right?
It was.
They do
was
surgery.
Gone. Yeah,
okay.
so 100% of the tumor was removed.
Right. But they said it's just basically you're always going to be susceptible to the cancer.
They basically said that it will come back. They said it will come back, and you will have about 1 to 10 years left in your lifespan.
See, I didn't actually know that. That's insane.
You didn't know that?
No,
Okay, yeah. So that's what they told me. And so, of course, when I hear that, I'm like, okay, so do I just go
19 years old,
find a deathbed right now? Like, what am I going to do?
Yep.
Obviously, I was like shot down. Okay, they said, we'll do chemo and radiation, and that's really about all we'll look into.
Yep.
So I needed something. I'm not just going to listen to that and just wait for the day to come. I was like, I need to find it. So it was just a blessing that I had a friend who, he was wanting to just kind of see how I was doing stuff. And we went paddleboarding and he told me about the keto diet. And I was like, what? He was like, yeah, dude, it's been showing some clinical research in brain cancer, preventing tumor regrowth and even potentially shrinking tumors.
Yeah.
But thankfully my whole tumor was removed. And I was like, oh, that's interesting. Well, let me just look into it.
What did you do after paddleboarding when you went home?
Dude, I literally went home and looked up the ketogenic diet.
Google search?
What the heck is this?
Straight Google search.
So I literally sat on the couch in my family's house till I go to bed early, but I stayed up pretty late looking up what the heck this was.
Uh-huh.
I saw it and I'm like, wow, this is so interesting that it's like a high fat thing. Mm-hmm. And it's like medium protein and low carb. That's like complete opposite of what I'm doing right now.
Yeah.
But whatever the heck it is, if it's going to work, I'll do it. Mm-hmm. And it also is funny because I say funny, but the day that I had the seizure was the day that I went from 4,000 calories to like 2,000. I was like, I want to start getting lean.
Yeah.
And 30 minutes before I did that, 30 minutes before my seizure, that's what I did. I started cutting calories rapidly and then boom, had the seizure.
Interesting.
I wonder if there was a correlation. I mean,
that's what I'm thinking.
Obviously, there was more of a correlation between the giant egg in your brain, but
if you were like
I'm wondering
feeding
if
the
that
tumor,
triggered something.
Yeah, if you're like feeding the tumor and then all of a sudden you're not, and it's like, F you, like I'm going to get mine.
It basically blew up.
Yeah.
So that's what happened. And then like, okay, well the keto diet can help lose body fat percentage and maintain muscle. And I'm like, that's exactly what I want. And I want to beat this brain cancer. Mm-hmm. So I'm going to try it. And so I did. And that first recipe I remember making was like an egg muffin recipe. It was so delicious. I'll never forget eating that. And as soon as I did, I'm like, yep.
Good thing it was good. What if it was bad? What if it was the worst egg muffin ever?
Well, that's the thing. But my mentality changed. It was like, I don't give a crap if this thing is not good. I'm still going to eat it. Yep. Because I was like so determined to overcome the odds and prove those doctors wrong, and achieve my goals that I've always wanted and not listen to that. So
what did the doctors tell you? Because there's some anecdotes about you asked them like what to eat, what to do.
Oh yeah. My dad was like, well, okay, so what should we do for my son? I mean, is there anything we can do? And she said, no, I'm sorry. There's really nothing that we could do about this. And he said, well, is there something he should eat or maybe not eat? I mean, just the little things. Is that something we can talk about? And she said, no. And my dad was like, so you're telling my son, he could have a beer and a burger right now. And she shook her head and said, yes, sir. That's, basically what I'm saying.
And this is the medical establishment, ladies and gentlemen.
The number one cancer research center in the world.
Oh, I'd like to point out that this doctor said it was okay to have a beer and a burger to a 19-year-old.
That's exactly right.
Oh,
we could have sued her.
Wow.
That's exactly true.
Yeah. Well, and again, guys, it just goes to show you how you have to take your health into your own hands. You cannot leave it up to so-called experts. You cannot leave it up to the government. You cannot even leave it up to the trainer at the gym or your brother or your cousin who's swole or got results, whatever. People just don't have all the information, right? You have to do your own research.
Some people do. The thing is, you can't leave it in the hands of people who stopped learning. I think that's the thing. Like, if you get to a plateau and you're like, I'm currently the best at what I'm doing. I'm currently the best in my field. I see it in poker all the time. When somebody becomes a great poker player, they think that's it. They don't keep learning, and then everybody else passes them. And same thing, there's new information being found every single day.
Well, but if someone is still learning and they have a growth mindset, what about the people that just haven't had access to information? Like, there's people that might know a lot about some things, but they've never been introduced to the keto diet. Yeah. And so their natural defense is like, oh, keto is just another fad. Right, well, that's completely ignorant nonsense from someone that just doesn't have the necessary information, hasn't done their own research, right? Yes. So you still have to be careful because could be a genius in one area and could know nothing in another. Yeah. And like with the amount of information that gets released on a daily basis and how fast things evolve, like nobody has all the answers, right? So you have to constantly be asking, questioning, and doing your own research.
And that's the scary part about it. And you know how weird this is? So I actually had Thomas Savery. I met him this weekend. You know who that is?
Nope.
He's a world-renowned clinical researcher through glioblastoma brain tumors, and he's had significant success with GBMs in the keto diet.
What's GBM?
Glioblastoma brain tumors, the one I had. And this is off topic here, but I met him for the first time, and I said, yeah, I had a glioblastoma tumor. He said, so is that whole tumor removed? And I was like, yes, sir, 100%. He said, 100%? I'm like, yeah. He's like, that never happens. He was like, you know how rare that is to have a full GBM removed? He said that hardly ever happens, and I'm honestly not sure if I've seen that. So that's the weird thing, is because what if they misclassified or diagnosed my tumor?
What are you going to do with this information?
I don't know. I'm going to tell my neuro-oncologist, I guess, maybe in the next check-in.
Well, do you think maybe you should go to another doctor and get a second opinion or something?
Well, I've already gotten many different opinions.
Could he look at you? Like, I mean, that just sounds like...
Yeah, he definitely could,
Yeah.
And I told him, I said, look, if you're looking for anybody to do research with, you want me being a dummy and like eating whatever the heck you want me eating, I will do it.
Yeah.
So, I could go to him again, but he found it very astounding, very interesting. And here's another thing is that like, okay, so I was just told that, right? So what happened was we actually got rid of that neuro-oncologist that gave me that diagnosis. We reported her in for literally how she handled the thing.
Yeah.
We got a new neuro-oncologist here in Austin who actually worked at MD Anderson, and he left. Why did he leave? We don't know. But he left there to come here. We met with him. Some of the first things he told me was say, hey, Logan, like, look, we're going to work through this, okay? We're going to work through this. And my biggest recommendation is to eat about 50 grams of sugar or less. Okay. And I'm like, okay, sure. Makes sense.
This is back in the day.
This is like right after we left that diagnosis.
Yeah.
And he said, so what you'll do is you'll want to bring in some turmeric, some frankincense, and you want to cut those sugars way, way down. And that was AKA, you need to do the keto diet.
Yep.
Of course, he can't say it legally, right?
Yep.
So I was very motivated. I'm like, oh, yeah, cool. Let's, yeah.
Yeah.
What happened the next day? The dude died.
Who?
The neuro-oncologist.
The guy that gave you the prescription to go on keto, not keto?
Correct. The one who had hope.
From what?
In this. Well, get this. He fell off a ladder and cracked his head open and died.
The next day.
The next day.
Wow.
And that was the one doctor, the one neuro-oncologist that we were like so faithful in, of like, man, this is going to be awesome with the keto diet. Like, this is going to be killer.
Jeez.
And he's gone.
That's insane.
Yeah. So.
And the plot thickens.
It's crazy just how things pop up like that, and it makes it a journey.
Yeah.
But
so we'll get back on topic, but I think you need to follow up with that information. Like I think you need to go every doctor you've talked to and say, what does this guy mean when he tells me it almost never happens that 100% of the tumor is removed? Does that mean there's still tumor in my head that you guys didn't find or didn't remove or whatever?
Yeah.
Because here's the thing. There's I think it's like 500 to 600,000 people die every year to medical error. Like,
oh yeah.
It's like 500,000 people from either like checking off the wrong box, this person not doing that or whatever. Like, hospitals get a lot of things wrong.
They could
right?
have. I mean, and that's the thing is that like, I do believe the full tumor is removed because I get MRIs on a regular basis to check and see. It could have been a misdiagnosis because I've had people say like, yeah, they actually misdiagnosed my tumor and said it was like a really, really bad one. And really it was actually benign. There's different classes, stage 1, class 2, 3, and 4. I barely passed the stage 3 class to now a stage 4. So it's almost like,
based on what? They test the tissue or something?
Yeah, well, see, I don't really understand it, but pretend it's like this, like 3.0 to 3.9 is stage 3.
Size?
And I don't know if it's size or just malignant level. And then 4.0 and higher is, GBM. And I literally was like at a 4.1. So I barely passed it to that stage 4 level. But what if they messed it up? What if in their analyzation they screwed it up? I don't know,
I doubt they have that laying around to retest, so...
Well, I think they store the tumor.
Oh,
because I think they want to look at it potentially down the road. Of like maybe why is this person, why is his tumor not coming back? Is there something about that tumor that was in there that's make it a non-growing? I don't know. It's hard to know.
Well, I think you should be following up on all this.
How old are you now? I'm sorry.
22.
Okay, so this was like 3 full years ago.
Just about, yeah. Actually, next month's like my 3-year anniversary. Yeah.
Wow. So you're basically a cancer survivor.
That's what I view myself as, absolutely.
But that still means you are susceptible forever.
Absolutely.
And so what are you doing to mitigate that?
Everything I possibly can. My day-to-day mission is to create the best version of myself and conquer the odds and understand that like it is possible.
Mm-hmm.
So I do keto, do the ketogenic diet. I do intermittent fasting every day.
Mhm.
I, do meditation. I do reading. Like, I do mental workouts. I do physical workouts. I do everything I can in every facet of life to prevent that.
So yeah, you've taken a very hands-on, active approach. You didn't just resign to being a cancer patient, right? So you're actually doing a lot about it, which is why you can be an inspiration for a lot of people. And also, as kind of a side tangent, you were affiliated with a cancer fundraiser.
Yeah.
It was a run or something?
Yeah,
or
the
a
Brain
walk?
Power 5K.
And I remember you mentioning how you went to one of their meetups or their meetings or something, and they had like pizza and soda around.
Yeah, man.
And you're kind of just like, oh, come on here. And it, like, even within that, like, you have a group of people that are focused on eliminating cancer that probably know more than the average person about cancer. Maybe even some of them are actual cancer patients, yet people are still so disconnected from what you're putting in your body, which should be the most important thing. I mean, what do you think about that?
I mean, it's pretty scary. We went to a pizza joint for this thing.
Wow.
And I was like the one dude just sitting there. I'm like, man, I don't know what to say. Like, I don't want to discourage people, I don't know how else to say it. And the host is, a vegan, and I'm not saying vegan is bad, but of course, I think they should know that, like, at least don't eat pizza. I mean, let's just eat some quinoa or something.
Yeah. Well, I'll step out and defend a little bit. What probably happened is they had an event coordinator that had nothing to do with the actual cause. And they were just like, oh, no, like we got it all set up. We got this pizza donated. These people donate for all of our events or whatever. So they had some sort of coordinator that did not just that 5K, but also like the 5K for plastic surgery or whatever the case. Yeah, I mean,
at the 5K, though, they have Dunkin Donuts as like one of the biggest sponsors.
Yeah. Right, Brent. So that's the problem. Like, if you're running something like that, you got
to get a little more hands-on.
You should be paying attention to these things. These things matter because it's like, what example you're setting? What habits are you perpetuating for people? Like, that is a big deal.
It's almost pretty self-explanatory. Like, I think almost everybody understands sugar fuels cancer.
Yeah. But a lot of people wouldn't make the connection between pizza.
Well, I know, but that's the thing, yeah.
And pizza does, though. And it's not just fructose, but you have the grains, which spikes insulin, which gets in a lot of blood sugar into your body. So, like, that's still an issue, right? And then obviously there are other problems that will come from eating something like pizza, heavily processed food. Let's get a little bit into the keto diet. So your version of keto, it's actually kind of unique in the keto space. I've seen a lot of people promote keto, show what they eat, etc. And some of the keto practitioners have a little bit of a focus on food quality, but a lot of them I feel like don't.
Uh-huh.
Whereas when you're posting meals, you're kind of like, I've seen you even do organ meat. I've seen you do a lot of wild-caught fish. I've seen you do a lot of grass-fed. I mean, you won't even eat non-grass-fed meat, right?
Yeah, no.
All your, vegetables, a lot of, I guess nuts, right?
Yeah.
I mean, but no dairy.
No dairy.
Right? And this is what we were talking about the other day, Brent, about how, like, keto, the way most people do keto, like, I think is wrong.
Yeah.
Right? But Logan's version is going to be closer to the truth, which is basically a real food keto way of eating, right? So can you run us through, like, maybe a little bit of what like your average day looks like, how many meals you're eating, how often you're eating, how big they are, how small, what foods they're comprised of. And then can you talk on how your version of keto might be a little bit different from others, and why are you choosing to eat that way?
Yeah, good question. So a day of eating basically for me is like, let's say I stop eating at like 8 p.m. Okay, that's last meal, last bite, whatever. I won't have anything to eat at all till 12 p.m. the next day. So I do about a 16-hour fast, sometimes 18.
Yep.
And sometimes 24-hour fast. It really just depends. But in that time, I'll do, delicious coffee, or sometimes a fat coffee. But let's just say I do the morning coffee. It's just straight black coffee, some water, maybe tea. That's it. And then a lunchtime comes, and I'm going to do about, let's just say 3 eggs with 6 ounces of ground beef, grass-fed, 100%, 100% pasture-raised eggs, with, some organic mushrooms, with some organic asparagus and avocado, a side of pecans, and then maybe some coconut oil on top, or MCT oil, or just a good avocado oil dressing.
That's meal one?
Meal one.
Real quick, before you move on to meal two, what are the macros like on that?
Yeah, the macros, so I get a lot of fat in, obviously. Macros are about 1,000 calories. 1,000 calories, that's going to be probably about 65 grams of fat. Probably about 18 grams of protein. I say 15 to 20 usually. And then about anywhere from 50 to 55 grams of protein.
Well, you did protein. So do you mean 18 grams of carbs?
Yeah, carbs.
And then 55 grams of protein?
Yeah, and then about 60 to 70 grams of fat.
So fat primary, Then next would protein, which is like low to moderate.
Yeah.
And then carbs, obviously the lowest for keto.
Yeah.
Right. And none of that, there's no sugar in there at all.
Correct.
Other than maybe some natural sugars you might have in like the vegetables, like a negligible amount, right? Because like, I mean, you do Brussels sprouts, right?
Yeah.
But you also do leafy greens and things like that. Yeah. So
cruciferous vegetables,
sure.
cauliflower, and
okay. So what about meal number 2?
Yeah, meal number 2. Let's make it a little bit different. I'll do maybe some. Let's do steak. So I'll maybe do some steak, or let's steak or salmon or something. You know, maybe some 8-ounce steak with some cauliflower cooked with some turmeric in there. Make it really herbal style. Then maybe I'll bring in some sauerkraut, help the gut, the liver. I'll bring in a different source of nuts, so like peely nuts.
You like macadamias?
Yeah, macadamia nuts. Yeah, I like those too. What else? I'm trying to think. Maybe some sardines or whatever. But yeah, I mean, that's what I do. And I'll put a dressing and a lot of salt on there, a lot of pepper. So,
what kind of salt do you use?
Himalayan pink salt by Wild Foods.
Wild pink salt.
Wow, that was the whole point of it. He kept asking you about food until there was a Wild Foods reference in there. He's just like, oh, I'm going to get this. I'm going to get it.
Also wild turmeric. But your plates usually have a lot of green on them, right?
Yeah.
So that second meal, you're not having less vegetables, right? You're just...
No, I mean, I don't know why, but I usually have my avocado at lunch. I don't know why. I just love it at lunch.
So you have avocado early? Yeah.
Yeah, so I'll do about like 200 to 300 grams of veggies in general on both meals. So
at the end of the day, it's like literally meat and veggies for the most part.
Yeah. Good fat.
I mean, I guess every meal... So every meal is kind of a base of meat and vegetables. Right?
Basically, yeah.
And then you throw in fats. What are some non-nut fats that you like to use?
Non-nut fats.
So nuts, obviously, primarily fat, but like what other fats that you're using?
Fats,
like, what oils are you cooking with? Are you putting things on top, etc.?
So one keto tip is you want to have fat meat. Okay, people just eat like chicken or turkey.
Right, fatty meat. Sure.
Yeah, that's really lean meat. So like I do very, very fattening meat of like 85-15 ground beef, fat Alaskan sockeye salmon. Eggs are bar none, I think, the best of the best. Sardines are great. Organ meat, liver, tongue, heart, kidney, all that sort of stuff. And even like uncured organic bacon is great. It's got like 4 grams of fat, 4 grams of protein. It was like perfect macros. So fat meat, and then I'll put in, MCT oil on there. I'll cook with that. People can put on butter and stuff. I don't really do that, but I'll put cocoa butter. Wild Foods.
Yep.
I'll melt it up and then drizzle it on my steak and eggs and stuff. Get the good fat in. So.
Besides MCT oil, do you use any other oils to cook with or anything?
Yeah, avocado oil I love. And it's like really quality avocado oil. It's great fat. And I'll even use coconut oil sometimes too, because it's slower digesting. So it kind of really satisfies your hunger. So yeah, I love using those.
Okay, great. So that's kind of like an average day of eating. Your meals are pretty consistent. Right?
Yeah.
What about these other versions of keto that you see?
Yeah,
what
actually, can I jump in on a question on the meals?
Brent, I'm talking.
Yeah, calm down. For some of us that don't cook their own meals, I mean me, what percentage of the time would you say that it's 100% cooked by you, and what percentage of the time would you eat out somewhere?
Gosh, 98% cooked by me.
Okay, so it'd be a real special occasion for you to go
and even
out.
if we're going to eat out, I mean, I'm not going to be eating at Applebee's.
Oh, yeah.
I'm going to be eating
Where would you go?
True Food Kitchen, Farm to Fork, Picnic, Flower Child. I'm thinking of one of those.
He's ideally locally sourced food, like local restaurants, right? And he asks every question in the book. What oil are you using? Cook my food this way. I mean, it's really things we should all be doing if we're eating out, but most of us just kind of like don't want to go there. To Logan's credit, he just doesn't give a shit. He's making his health a priority. Like, he's got a good reason to, but at the same time, so do we all do. We really all have the same reason, because we all, if we don't clean up our diet and our health and our life, like, could end up with maybe another form of cancer down the road, or heart disease, or whatever. So yeah, you do have to do a lot of cooking.
Yep,
it's just a thing.
Yeah.
But I've turned it into something I enjoy. And I hate scaring people, and I'm not trying to, but like, brain cancer is the fastest growing cancer in the world right now. Hundreds of thousands of people are literally getting it every day, and they don't even know it. It just pops up.
Yep.
And it could be there right now, and then boom, it just shows up. And those things happen with the diet, with the stress, with the lifestyle, with the approach that people are approaching. So
so that's a good segue into this keto that is, I would say, right versus wrong keto. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I actually made a video on that. It's called Good Keto versus Bad Keto.
Okay, so explain good and then explain bad.
Yeah. of course, it got decent hate on there, but I'm okay
that's
with that.
good. No.
But, Bad Keto, I view it as like, almost like if it fits your macros. Now, I'm not saying if it fits your macros is bad, but I think people can abuse it in the sense of like, oh, let's just go eat donuts, and we'll just do 2,000 calories of donuts, and that's the same as 2,000 calories of avocado. Right. So Bad Keto is like, let's go get some cheese, some shredded cheddar, and some just processed bacon and some McDonald's burgers all day. And then we'll go back and make a keto smoothie, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And we'll implement one piece of bread for the day. And we're at like 30 carbs. So we're good.
Yeah.
Like
exactly.
that's a bad keto approach.
Yep.
Basically abusing and not bringing in the fact that you need quality food.
Yep.
So a good keto, like I said, 100% grass-fed meats. If it's not grass-fed, I don't touch it. Pasture raised is what I buy. And even, organic cruciferous vegetables, I personally buy those as well.
Mm-hmm. So it's really the difference between kind of macros and counting numbers or carbs or fat or whatever versus the quality of the actual food.
Yeah.
Right. And so if you've been listening to any of our show thus far on the Ancestral Mind, for us, it's always quality first. We talked about keto a little bit in the last episode, Brent, and my thing was like, if it's not real food as the base, it doesn't matter what else you're doing for the most part. That being said, keto is a really good strategy for weight loss, for hormone control, for all the reasons we talked about again in the last episode about how, carbs and sugar and spiking insulin. Like, and if you don't understand how the hormonal machinery of your body works, then like you're never going to be able to manage your weight or health or anything. And so that's what keto really gets right. And what I think we need to see more of is people focusing on the quality of food. So it's almost like a paleo keto approach, right? Yeah. And paleo kind of lost some favor just because it, people equate it with caveman, and it kind of lost some of its growth that it had, probably about 5 or 6 years ago. But for me, it still is kind of the foundation of the natural human diet, like the wild diet, right? Because it's based on what our ancestors would have done for hundreds of thousands of years.
Yeah.
In fact, what I also think is that the next thing should be, if we have an evolution of these popular diets, it would be some kind of version that's like keto plus paleo, right?
Yeah.
You want to control your carbs because there aren't a lot of carbs available in nature. You also want to eat only real food because that's what humans are designed to eat, right? That's why when you do something like what Logan is doing, you are as close to the food truth for the human animal you're going to get. You are eating lower carb, almost no sugar, and you're eating primarily real foods as close to nature as possible. And that's why Logan is ripped. And that's why people that follow his plan get ripped. And that's how everybody can optimize their health and their hormones.
Yeah. I mean, it's like people don't understand that, like, okay, you can lose weight eating 1,000 calories of donuts. I get it. But they don't understand that, like, to improve your overall bodily function, to improve your longevity, to decrease your likelihood of getting a disease down the road, it comes with the quality of food. For example, somebody said, hey, I lost 30 pounds. I didn't get lean and shredded. Well, why is that? Well, I don't know. Okay, well, you ate 2,000 calories of donuts every day. My friend, he lost 30 pounds. He got shredded and lean. Oh, okay, well, it's because he had quality meat, quality food, and quality this. You may have lost the same amount of weight, but obviously there's a significant visible difference in the one who had quality food and values what they're putting in their body, not just numbers.
Yeah, and also kind of to expand on what you're saying, like there are people that could eat 1,000 calories of donuts a day, and like let's say their maintenance level is 2,000 calories a day, and they would still not lose weight.
Really?
From the actual hormonal machinery.
Wow,
right.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of variables on calories in, calories out. It's something we're actually gonna have a whole show on. It's why you see people that, let's say, obese people that are pretty overweight, right?
They're let's say those people.
They're going to go on a calorie restricted diet. And I've heard examples of people that like will drink Diet Coke and they'll eat just like a small candy bar or something else. And they'll eat like almost to the point of starvation, like 500 calories a day.
Yeah.
Yet they don't lose a pound, right? Because of all the variables relating to hormones. And also the thing is, when you do successfully lose weight on a calorie restricted diet, that's like kind of like the Biggest Loser, what they did, where they basically over-exercise and undereat. You can lose weight eventually, but what's going to happen is all of those participants gained all the weight back immediately because they didn't allow their body to really adapt. They didn't allow their body set point to change. They didn't let their body to kind of naturally get to a lower state. And so when they go back to doing almost anything, their body just immediately rebuilds that fat like right away, right? And so that's another problem with calorie restriction. Like
exactly what I did.
Yeah, so that's the problem with calorie restriction because like after enough time, you'll lose some weight. But for the most part, calorie restriction is not the way you want to lose weight. It's not effective. It's not long-term effective. Any results you get will soon disappear. And we'll talk about that more. A lot of it has to do with hormones. But at the end of the day, if you're eating quality food, and you're controlling your carbs, even like if you're not doing full-blown keto, like you're not trying to get ketosis every day, but if you're going kind of lower carb, which is a little bit more ancestrally appropriate, for me, what I've seen in my life, what I've seen in family's life, etc., that has always been the best thing to get results.
Yeah.
Right. And obviously if you go keto, like for a lot of people, it'll supercharge results because you really, really control your hormones when you're controlling your carb intake. And the thing about keto and the reason that you need to focus on real food, just going keto for most people is going to eliminate most of that junk food. Right.
Oh, yeah.
And so that's why most people get results in the beginning. But then to go to like the next level where it's long term, you have to get quality food. Because like you said, like it's not sustainable to do anything but that. Right. And that's why I don't think dairy should be included in the keto diet at all.
Yeah, I don't either. Because I think it causes inflammation.
Oh, it does. Well, we know it does, right?
And the whole purpose is to reduce inflammation.
Yeah, exactly.
You know?
Yeah, so it's counterintuitive, right? In fact, you did keto, Brent, but you did a lot of cheese, right?
Yeah, I was doing. So I had to win a weight loss bet with a couple of friends, and of course they wrote me into $1,000 bet last year, and it was lose 10% of your body weight. I dragged ass on it, and I'm like, damn, how am I going to lose this fast? And I was like, all right, I'll just do keto. That's it. And I basically did it in the least healthy way possible. I was eating like max cheese. I was shitting my brains out. I was having massive keto flu. Like it was basically the worst possible thing that I could have done to my body. I won that bet. I got the money.
Well, there you go.
But at the end, I had to take like diuretics and get in a hot tub and finish off the last few pounds.
How fast did you gain that back?
Immediately. But yeah, as soon as I was done.
Wow.
You know, I didn't. There was no lifestyle change there. I do some interesting mental gymnastics to keep myself fat. Trust me. But
you used to do some interesting mental gymnastics, but you are no longer now that you moved to Austin.
Yes, of course. I used to. Yes.
Logan, did you know that the last time he lived with me in Florida, we didn't live together, but he was working at the gym and he was helping me on projects. We were hanging out a lot. He lost 80 pounds.
Wow.
By just hanging around. Yep. Can you believe
crazy,
that? I know.
It's mental. It's like,
oh, dude. Well, it's your environment. You know how it is. Like when we started hanging out with Logan, all of us had pressure to eat better, and I was the guy who kind of set the tone for everyone, and now Logan's the guy that has set the tone. Like eat like Logan is the new thing, right? And so let's get into the basics of keto. So we've kind of covered some things that people have never heard of keto. They might not really know what we're talking about right now.
Yeah.
So paint a picture for me, and Brent, you can offer good questions to add in here and color commentary as you like to do. Let's try to paint the basics of a keto diet for someone that's never heard of it.
Okay.
Where would you start?
So they probably have heard of a low carb diet.
Yeah.
And I don't want them viewing it as a low carb diet. It's a ketogenic diet. And the difference is low carb diet is people don't really have much energy. They feel like crap because they're just doing low carb, medium protein, and no fat. Yeah. The keto diet is a high fat, medium protein, low carb diet. So their body uses the fat as fuel, right? So they're not using sugar as fuel. They're not using glucose. So when they have that fuel, that's what allows them to adapt to the fat fuel. So that's basically what a keto diet is. High fat, medium protein, low carb diet.
So there's obviously ranges here, but paint a picture for our audience of what you do. If you eat 2,000 calories in a day, right? What does that look like in total? Maybe percent, but then in also total grams.
It kind of varies from person to person because some people can go in like 65% fat, maybe 35% protein.
Sure.
All in all, I would say probably 70% fat.
Okay.
About 20 to 30% protein, and then 5 to 8% carbs, and that's all from veggies. And then numbers, I would say anywhere from 2,000 to 2,200 calories, with about 160 to 180 grams of fat, anywhere from 20 to 40 grams of carbs from veggies, total carbs, about 100 to 110, 115 grams of protein.
I mean, that really is the base. Like if you stay within those guidelines while also eating really good food, you're going to just crush results. And I would completely back that statement.
Yeah.
Right. But that's easy for us when we're just kind of talking about it. Like even when you talk about it, I'm like, man, that sounds easy. Why am I not doing that on a daily basis? But when you actually convert it to food and a fridge and raw ingredients and having to cook and all these things that really mess people up or at least get in the way, there's a lot of hurdles. There's a lot of, or at least a lot of things people have to kind of figure out before they can get it right. You obviously cook all your meals. Yeah. Right. And you've figured out a routine that works for you. But for someone that maybe works all the time, that has kids or all these other things, there's definitely going to be hurdles. Now, I'm not one for excuses, and I think if anyone makes an excuse about their diet, they're full of shit because, the only thing you actually own in this life and it should be the most valuable thing is your health, and food is the number one way to dictate your health. So, it should always be a priority, just like sleep.
Yeah.
But there are definitely some things that get in the way. And so, can you talk about some things that you found that have helped you stick with your diet more and that you've maybe seen that have kind of helped and worked with other people, while also, what are some kind of failures you see a lot of? Like people get hung up on the wrong things. They focus on the wrong things. Like I see that a lot as well. There's a lot of keto like mindset traps that people fall into.
It's going to be habits. A lot of people will go into they hear the word diet and they say, oh, I can't have this. I can't have this. So they look at what they can't have. They don't look at what they can have. You can't have bacon. You can't have eggs. You can't have avocados, and you can have great, delicious almonds or pecans or whatever. So view it that way. Secondly, a lot of people are going into this diet and they know that in their kitchen, in their fridge, they got, delicious cookies that are, in the refrigerator. They got some bread in there. They got some good jelly to put on there, and they make some cheeseburgers, whatever. It's sitting there. So obviously it's going to tempt them. But if you literally start this, throw everything out, replace it with other great keto options that you absolutely love, what are you going to do? Are you really going to go out of your house at 12 a.m. and go buy a bunch of donuts like you knew you shouldn't have? No, you're going to create new habits of new eating that you love. That's what I would say. Get rid of the bad things from your kitchen.
Don't keep it in your house at all.
Yeah, replace it with good, and be around people that are going to support you, because if you're not around people who are going to support you and saying like, well, that's just stupid keto, you're going to get a heart attack. If you're going to hear that, you're probably not going to stick to it.
Or it's going to be very hard.
Yeah.
We shouldn't write people off. A lot of people are in that situation, actually.
Yeah.
Like, we take that for granted because my household, 100% this way. Like, if I find stuff that's not supposed to be there, I'll throw it away.
Yeah.
Right? Or I'll eat it, but either way, it's gone, right? What can people do? They're in college. They have roommates, right? They have a kid. They have a wife or husband or kids or whatever that aren't just not on the
They've got two kids already and they're in college,
right? These are examples of multiple people. These are multiple demographics. Okay, what can people do in that situation if they're going to have people around them that aren't going to support them?
Yeah. So what I do is I make something that makes it. I'm not trying to like get down people's throat of like, hey, my meal looks better than yours, but you could still have a great meal. Like make a fat burger like everyone else is making. Replace it with lettuce. Make a good pork rinds and guacamole instead of chips and dip.
Yeah.
Good replacements that honestly can look even better.
Yeah.
Keto cookies. I personally think they take just as good, if not better, than regular cookies. Right? So it's those little things. And like as far as meal prepping, to save time, you can buy hard-boiled eggs ready to go. You don't even have to cook veggies. Nuts are already done. You don't cook those. Right? You can prep meats in advance. Like it's so simple that people heavily overlook it.
Yeah.
And I would even throw in that if you don't have support, or you feel like you have a group that would not be a good support group, just don't tell them. Like you don't have to say like, oh, I'm on keto, or I'm a vegan, or whatever the case may be. If you just don't say it and do it, what are they going to do? Ask you like, hey, I've noticed you've not been eating any carbs in the last week. What's wrong with you?
Well, so here's the thing: people will ask you that.
I don't think I've ever experienced
No, I'm telling you, they will, especially, it's different for everybody. So,
especially in college,
Oh, yeah. And people will ask you, and it depends. It depends on your personality. It depends on the people you're around.
Yeah.
My whole life, I've never had that issue. I've always kind of been the leader, and like, I just kind of tell people what I'm doing, and they can freaking accept it, right? I'm fortunate that way. And I realize, I was thinking about this the other day, it's kind of a tangent. Nobody has ever in my life said, Colin, starting a business is a bad idea. You know what I'm saying? You know how many people hear that,
You
though?
may have had it before it is what it is now.
No, but I'm saying no one's ever told me that my whole life.
Okay.
Like, because I think it was just like, because I was always so passionate, and I'm like, this is amazing, we're going to do this. And people are just like, I don't want to rain in this guy's parade. So like, I think I forced them into like accepting what I was saying. But you hear people that their parents persuade them otherwise, their friends, their girlfriends, their boyfriends, whatever. And they just tell people like, that's a bad idea. What if you lose money? What if this? And all this basically negative BS. I've never experienced that.
Yeah.
And so people experience that not only for like doing something, living your own life, but they also experience it with diet. Now, here's the reason why that happens. And this is kind of a good tangent to go into, because this is a very big hurdle that most people don't realize exists. Most people think, I'm gonna improve my life. I'm gonna get healthy. And everybody around me that cares about me is going to be gung-ho for me, right? But what they don't realize is then those people that, they still care about you, but their own bias and their own agenda and their own subconscious gets in the way. The reason people don't like to see when you as an individual are changing, because you're threatening their identity.
Yeah.
Right? Because if they don't change, if they do what's comfortable, what they've always done, and they don't follow you because you're changing and making all these big plans, right? It reflects badly on themselves, which is why people always give you resistance, right? If you're not around people that are all on the same page with diet, nutrition, business, whatever it is, and this is, again, why the power of people in your environment is so important for getting anything done, you will always have something that's like dragging at your ankle, like a ball and chain, trying to hold you back. And for some people, they cannot overcome it. Like if you come from, let's say, a big family, grandma always makes her baked ziti or whatever, like, and you show up and you don't want grandma's baked ziti, there's literally some cultures where they would like tell you to leave the table and not come back.
Yeah,
like that's a big deal, right? That's a hard thing to overcome.
Italian culture,
exactly, right? And that's a lot. Persian culture, there's a lot of families like that. Maybe even Asian culture, right? Yeah. Like what you do is a kind of a cool strategy, Logan, because you aren't going to people and saying like change what you're cooking, like because we've had like get-togethers and stuff. Sometimes they're at some people's house that maybe their food isn't great. We've had, or at my house, which is good, but like you can't have the thing with the dairy in it or whatever, right? Yeah. You basically bring food with you when you go to those things, right? And you just kind of. Everyone knows that like Logan's got his meal. He's got his little glass Tupperware thing, right? Or a Tupperware lid, right? Because we don't want those plastics. And then you preheat it or even maybe cook something from scratch. And so that by the time we're all ready to eat, you have your meal and your little thing. Everyone has their meal, whatever. If anything has been made, to Logan standards, Logan approved, then you'll have some of that. Yeah. And like, I mean, obviously your family's supportive because of the cancer thing. Paint us a picture for an example you've gone to of something like that where you had to do your own food thing and almost nobody else was like, on board. Like, have you gone to a place like that where like everyone's like eating pizza and you're like literally with your like salmon dish?
Yeah, dude, it happens all the time. Yeah, and like I don't expect people like to literally do exactly what I'm doing. I don't expect that, and I'm not forcing anybody to do it. I'm just having to do what I have to do. Yeah. So I was like in Detroit, for example, traveling. Organic food restaurants. It's not that easy. We're in Detroit. It was my family and my mom's brother.
Cousin family?
Yeah. And he was there too. And he had like this pizza joint that he always loved in Detroit. It's like a world-renowned thing. We went there. Of course, I couldn't eat there. So I stopped at Whole Foods, got my veggies there, got a buffet sort of thing. I got pasture-raised hard-boiled eggs, some sardines, some nuts, whipped it up. I just walk in in the restaurant. Like I used to be a little scared of it, but now I'm like, you know what? If they want to come ask me what the heck's going on, I'll tell them.
Yeah, sure.
It's brain cancer.
Yep.
Is that, are you cool with that?
Yeah, right.
What are they going to say? No, eat the pizza. So, I mean, that's what I did. I just had to say, can I get a plate maybe? Can I get a bowl? Put it all in there. Everybody gets their pizza. All good. Yeah. I mean, I don't care anymore. I mean, I'm done like worrying about what people think about what they think about that, because if they ask me and I give them an answer, they feel worse than I would feel. Right. Like, well, geez, okay. Whew,
what can we do for people that can't say brain cancer?
Just tell them to say brain cancer. I'm pretty sure.
Well, that's what I don't want to do. But
just say it's a health defect, and they say, "Well, what's your health defect?" Well, I'm trying to prolong my lifestyle, my life.
Or you're gluten intolerant. I was even thinking for people that, because sometimes lying is actually useful, and I think you shouldn't always have to honestly share everything you're doing in your life. And I kind of get annoyed personally when people ask me questions sometimes that I don't know. So it's like, it's a weight loss challenge, or I'm doing a Whole30. And like literally end of the sentence, and if they don't know what you're talking about, who cares? Like, but the fact that you answer with conviction, for most people, it just kind of like they're like, oh, okay, and they move on. But if you're like I don't know, and you like try to stumble around some excuse or whatever to like appease them, well, then that actually makes people suspicious, and then that makes people want to give you more resistance, right? Yeah. And so a lot of times, just having a canned response of why you're doing this thing, that can work for roommates, it can work for coworkers, it can work for friends and family. Always make some BS excuse if you have to just get them off your back. Yeah. Right. And then the more you do it, the more they'll accept it. And then maybe later on you could, tell them the quote unquote truth. Right. Exactly. But I'm all for lying in situations like that if it's going to help you stick to your goals. Right. Yeah. And unfortunately, we live in a world where there's a lot of influence that is not good for us. Like the status quo is the reason that our obesity rate is 40% and 70% of Americans are overweight. That's status quo. That's because you go to the baseball game and you get pizza and burgers and fries and you drink beer, or you go to the bar and you get drunk every Friday, or you go to fast food, or you go to this, whatever, or you eat at TV dinners. Like that is why we have what we have today, right? So we need more people willing to go out on a limb and be different, be unique, and so that's why you are an inspiration to so many, Logan. Just showing like, look, like my meals are amazing, my food's amazing. I'm literally fighting cancer on my own by myself without my doctors. Because I'm taking this into my own hands. And I mean, it's awesome. Like we need to really get everyone on board with something like this, right?
So let me bring us back to basics real quick. Okay. Because again, this isn't a keto podcast, so not everybody knows everything. If you had to give me two really easy, actionable things. One for somebody who is just starting brand new keto and has no bad keto habits. And a second one for somebody who's already thinks they're keto, but has those bad habits.
So start.
Okay.
No keto. Start with that person.
What should they do?
Yeah. What should they do to get started?
They need to understand certain things. They need to understand first that you don't just do keto on day one and you're like, voila, in heaven. Okay, like it takes your body a day or 2 or 3 to go into ketosis. Once you're truly there, then you'll start adapting to full fat. So I recommend at least going 2 weeks to get your full understanding and summary of it.
What do they do? What does that look like?
What they do is, it's kind of up to the person, to be honest with you. It depends. I think if somebody who's been thriving off of significant carbs for their whole life, I think they should start easing their way into it of like, okay, I'm at 400 a day. Okay, in the next 2 days, let's cut it to about 350. The next 2 days, let's go to 300. And then 250. And then down to 25. And that right there, that's...
Like you would do with any drug.
Exactly. Yeah, I mean, exactly. And then...
or 200. If you're eating 400 carbs a day, ladies and gentlemen, go to 200 grams of carbs.
Yeah.
You'll be fine. You'll survive.
That's
but
true.
please go lower, faster than that. But definitely don't go from like 200 carbs a day to like 20.
Yeah.
Right? Because you'll get keto flu.
I mean,
right?
Keto flu is... I think you'll get it regardless.
Yeah.
I just think people need to understand, like, have an open mind. I know it's not something physical, but like, have an open mind and understand, like, what it's doing for your body positively on how going into ketosis actually works. Because a lot of people view it as low carb. They feel like crap. They're like, I hate this. Well, did you fully adapt to it? Like, have you fully been in ketosis for a month?
Mm-hmm.
No, I haven't. Well, you don't know. So it's not an accurate
Also,
summary.
you're eating enough fat.
Exactly. You're
A lot
not
of people
getting
don't eat
enough fat.
enough fat. Yeah.
So they can always learn, and they don't need to go into it being a keto pro. I went into it almost like clueless, but I still learned as I went through. And the people who have been on it, like maybe, bring in other foods, like maybe take some things out, bring in some liver meat, organ meat, and do something you haven't done. So like if you've been doing regular keto, bring in fasting. If you've done fasting in keto, bring in 1 meal a day method. If you've done that, try carnivore. If you've done that, do targeted keto, certain different facets of doing those sort of things.
Yeah, absolutely. And definitely the fasting, because what we believe here at the Ancestral Mind is that intermittent fasting is not just a weight loss gimmick. It's not a diet. It's a way the human body is designed. We are designed to have inconsistent food, have a lot of food sometimes, a little bit of food other times, and no food sometimes, right? It's part of living in the wild. That was natural to our species. And that's why all humans need to fast in some way. Like you do a 24-hour fast once a week. Is that right? About?
Yeah.
Yeah. And then it's kind of a 16-8 every other day.
Yep.
I pretty much do a 16 to 20-hour fast every single day. And again, like, well, with your fasting, answer me this. Are you pretty strict about the numbers? Or you just kind of like go by what's convenient? Like you get your fast in, then you just like eat whenever you want? I mean, you listen to your body when you're hungry, or are you pretty consistent?
I'm pretty consistent. I mean,
right.
For example, I'll stop eating at 8 and I'll go at 12 or 1 or 2. I mean, I'll go longer, but I usually never cut it short, of like 10 o'clock or like 11, I just always take it to 16.
What if you were out in like a late dinner and you ate at like 9:30,
Yeah, then I'll elongate it to like 10:30, 11:30, 12:30, like 1 or 2:30.
Right, so you just push the fasting window back a little bit. Exactly.
Yeah.
That's what I love about fasting, because it can be very flexible. And for me personally, I don't obsess over it. I just kind of, like earlier today I was hungry, and so I ate. And I broke my fast at like 3. Normally I would go to like 6 or 7 p.m.
Yeah,
right?
just go with the flow.
And then now I can just adjust my schedule, and that's that.
If you push it back too far, it's a perfect opportunity to go for the 24 hours.
Yeah, just go an entire day.
Yeah.
Exactly. All right, so that's good. That's a good intro for beginners, and for some people doing keto that can maybe mix it up a little bit, right?
All right.
What about?
I have one more beginner question. What about resources? Obviously, Fusion Lean is going to provide a great resource. Is there like a nice app that somebody could grab, or?
I've never used a keto app. I've watched a lot of Dr. Berg's channel. I mean, you can think of any keto question in the world, and he has a video on it.
YouTube?
Dr. Berg. Yeah,
okay.
YouTube,
Cool.
Dr. Berg.
Yep.
That's 100% best of the best.
What are some keto misconceptions? What are like the average person when they hear keto? They're just like, "Oh, that's Atkins." Like, what do you have to say to that?
Yeah, that's
I would
Atkins. That's
say-
primary misconception.
Yeah.
I would say like, keto? Oh, you're going to lose a bunch of muscle. No, you're not going to lose muscle because your body's using fat as fuel, and that's going to maintain your muscle. You're not losing it. Another one I would say is like, you're going to get weak in the gym. Okay, well, tell me this. I mean, the guy who set the deadlift world record was a keto for 2 years. So I don't really understand that. There could be so many different things that I'd say. Keto's not good for your heart. Well, why? Because it's a lot of fat. Well, do you realize that the real heart attacks and stuff are coming from the fat from the sugary things like donuts and stuff?
Yeah.
Like cholesterol. Oh, go watch out for those eggs. It's really, really bad. Okay, well, do you understand, like, it's good cholesterol, and to have good health and potentially live longer, you need high cholesterol in your
Cholesterol is
life?
a sex hormone. If you don't have it, you die.
Yeah.
And also on the fat hypothesis, if anyone's interested in learning more about this, going deep down into it, Good Calories, Bad Calories by Gary Taubes. But basically, the whole fat is bad, fat causes heart disease, cholesterol is bad, has been debunked. And now, finally, the media and science is getting to a point where they're accepting that they were wrong. It's really sugar, it's really grains, it's really processed food. So fat is just fine. And we all need to eat a lot of it, right? As long, again, quality sources. Like, you don't want to be eating seed oils. You don't want to be eating vegetable oils, trans fats. You don't, like, basically any fat that's in a processed food or a cheap food is fat you don't want to eat. Like, avoid it like the plague.
Yeah.
But fat from healthy animals, fat from the plant and animal kingdom that is, or not all plant kingdom actually, because there are some plant fats that aren't good, like canola oil, rapeseed oil, things like that. Whereas avocados are really good fat. So you kind of have to, when it comes to fat, you have to know a little bit about what you're talking about, what you're doing, and what you're buying from. Like, coconut oil is good, even though they try to demonize it recently. And there's a bunch of like coconut oil's bad scare, which again was based on the fat hypothesis, which we have debunked at this point. And so this was just one Harvard professor that hasn't done his research in probably a long time, that's just spewing off crap that people used to talk about in the 80s. Yeah. And as a result, all these media outlets picked up this article and had all these fear-mongering headlines. And that's really why we have most of the misinformation about nutrition in our society, because the media perpetuates BS that is done from either studies that are poorly funded, that are very narrow, or even biased, that are done by big food companies. And then the media picks it up and just like goes, yeah, look, the new science says this or whatever. And people accept it as fact. So again, that's a big rabbit hole we can go down. But so keto misconceptions, the big one being people think they're going to lose muscle and or not be able to perform in the gym. Why do you think they say that? Is there some merit? Like, maybe for a while you would be weak because you're not really into ketosis yet and your body's not really fat adapted. But like after that, you'd probably be way stronger. I mean, what do you think?
Yeah. So first off, people think that you need a full glycogen storage to do that. Now, I get this, right? Carbs are more like sprinting. Fat, ketones, is running a marathon. Okay. So I get those are two different fuel sources and they can have two different benefits and two different purposes. But people don't understand that, like, the utilization of the ketones, you're not going to lose muscle, because think about it. Your muscle needs energy. It needs protection, right? So if it's going to use carbs and it's depleted of carbs fast, it's going to say, we need more, we need more, we need more. But if you're using fat that's running a marathon, right, it's going to last in your muscles a lot longer. So it's going to protect your muscles while your body is using the fat as fuel. So that's what allows your body to utilize the protein and the fat that it's taking in to protect the muscle and burn fat as fuel. And so coming into play of the strength levels, whatever, when you fully adapt to it, that's what people don't understand. As they go into it for 1 week, come to the realization, like, I'm weak now.
Yeah.
Well, okay, have you fully adapted? No, I haven't. Well, there you go. So let's go a month. Your body's going to now understand its strength levels by using fat as fuel, and it's going to understand the full function. So that's the whole misconception right there, you know.
Yeah,
well, and also, so this is Ancestral Mind Podcast. Let's break this down ancestrally. If our ancestors, all of us, right, if they had to eat carbs to be able to live in the wild and hunt and walk and do all the things they did, right, we wouldn't be here today.
Yeah,
because there's like no carbs in nature, really. So like very few, right? And that's just another example of the mismatched principle. But our ancestors are designed to go long periods of time without any food. So that's why fasting is good for you. When they have access to a big kill, like let's say we would have taken down a big mammoth, we would have ate a ton of fat and protein. We would have stuffed our faces, right? Because we couldn't preserve that food. So we had to get as many calories in as possible, right? That is why humans are designed to use fat and protein as fuel, because it is the primary food that helped our species evolve. And then I just read a cool book, Catching Fire, which links cooked food actually to our evolution and how we had to cook food because it releases more nutrition and a lot of fascinating things there. We won't go down that rabbit hole yet today, but in general, I've seen other people do it. I've seen it with Logan. I've seen it with myself. When I started fasting and eating a lower carb diet, my results in the gym skyrocketed. And I was doing CrossFit. I was testing my 1 rep maxes. I was doing my snatches. I would actually go the entire day with nothing but black coffee. And I would go in the gym, my first class around 7 p.m. And then I would do a workout and my first meal would be after that. And like now I can't even fathom training with food in my stomach. I can't even fathom saying I need carbs for energy. Like it's complete utter nonsense when you really adapt to it. It's amazing, right?
Oh, you got to have your Gatorade.
Yeah, I know, right?
Get them electrolytes.
Right. So, okay, let's get to a couple more before we wrap up. So that was keto misconceptions. What about some of the common keto mistakes? And then also, what are some maybe keto excuses and or just general diet excuses that you see a lot? Because you get a lot of comments, you get a lot of emails. You know, you have a pretty big audience online, and you've probably heard and seen it all. What have you seen?
You know
most
what?
common?
I'm going to interrupt you, Colin. I'm going to give my big excuse. You ready for this?
Go for it.
I have one and I think we may even talk about it on the show. I don't know if it got deleted in the lost episode. My resistance to specifically keto is that if I do cheat, which I know that I cannot go through life without grabbing something that's going to kick me out at some point. I now have to reset all of that, and I've pushed back so much work. And in the meantime, while I'm trying to get back into ketosis, I'm now sick. I'm now weak, and I'm going through everything that I went through at the beginning again. So in my mind, I'm just like, I don't even want to start.
Yeah, I think a lot of people think that like if they go out of ketosis that the world's ending. Of like, oh my gosh, okay, I've ruined all my results. I'm done. Forget it. Right. So that's like a big excuse is that like messing up one time, the world's ending. I think a lot of misconceptions can be like, well, isn't too much fat not good? Or like, you know, do I really need all that sodium? A lot of salt. I thought that was bad. Just a lot of those things that they don't understand, and they take it. Basically, what I think a lot of people do is they make it more difficult than it really is mentally. They think it's like going into a prison. It's like you have to follow this rule and this rule and this rule.
Yeah, I think they have to be perfect, but you don't need to be perfect.
Yeah, you don't need to be perfect. That's what I'm saying. Like I try and dumb it down for everybody to make it so simple that I try to make it so simple that it makes them feel like if you have any excuses, your excuse is pretty not valid.
It's nonsense.
You know, so it's so simple that they heavily overlook it.
Also, to kind of answer Brent's question, so most people think about ketosis and like, oh, my goal is being ketosis. Or like keto, my goal is being ketosis, right?
Yeah.
You track yours. Some people track, some don't, right? I remember watching a video recently, reading an article about someone kind of saying like, guys, ketosis isn't the point, right?
Yeah.
Like, what do you think about that? What are your thoughts on that?
I mean,
like, do you have to be in ketosis? Like, is it going to, like, and then what? So I think there's actually benefit to breaking ketosis on a regular basis because that is, again, more ancestrally appropriate. We would have, if we got access to a bunch of fruit, we would have eaten it.
Yeah.
Right. And so I think we should strategically, and then you have things like refeeding, which helps with leptin resistance. There's things that we should do on a regular basis to have more carbs. And so a lot of people that I've been observing they kind of say the most sustainable for them is like a cyclical keto diet.
Yeah.
So what, I mean, obviously you're doing it for a very specific reason, but I mean, what are your thoughts on that?
So I've never really found somebody who like absolutely loves cyclical. The reason I say that is because people go into ketosis and they truly adapt to it. And then they have like a really deep carb meal and they really don't feel good. Like they're realizing their body is better adapted to fat. But for people to burn fat as fuel, you essentially you have to be in ketosis. If you're not using fat as fuel. Now, that doesn't mean you can't lose weight because you can. But if you're not in ketosis, you're not utilizing ketones in providing the benefits of what the keto diet brings into play. But that doesn't mean you have to do it forever. You know, if you fully adapt after 2 to 3 or 4 weeks, then going in and going out is definitely normal. And I think you're correct. I think people should go a few months on keto, maybe a few months off, a week on keto, a few days off. I don't think people need to stick to it for the rest of their life. I do. Therapeutically, medically, I need to do that. People with seizures, Alzheimer's, Parkinson's disease, epilepsy, cancer, diabetes, they need to stick to it. But really it comes down to what works for you. Have you been keto 4 weeks and is that really something you want to stick with? Yes, it is. Or I'll do maybe a day or two off with healthy carbs.
Mm-hmm.
That's a good approach. I think it's bad when people say, well, yeah, I need to come off for 1 or 2 days. Well, what's that looking like? Well, it's a donut day. Okay, that's really abusing it. So.
Yeah, well, and so I guess probably the last thing you said is what most resonates with me. I don't aim to be in ketosis, but I'm always conscious of my carb intake.
Yeah.
Because like, you know, as I get older, I mean, I'm 33 now, but like it definitely catches up with you. Like you have to pay attention to what you're eating, maybe more so than I had to. So I'm always trying to watch my carbs for the metabolic benefit, right? To make sure that I'm not gaining unnecessary fat or whatever. And also to control my appetite because the more carbs you eat generally, the more food you want to eat, right? Like you have all the hormone issues.
Yeah.
And so I do kind of like a real food, lower carb, but there's absolutely days where my macros would be considered keto. Like there's days where I would probably just eat like nothing but meat. right? And maybe
Yeah.
like a little bit of vegetables, right? And I've actually been experimenting a little bit with the carnivore thing here and there, and just making a point to focus on protein and animal products for a couple reasons, just kind of to mix things up. But
Yeah.
I think what you said about how, like, if you want keto as a base, you know, that can definitely work. And then have, you know, if that means you have a couple cheat meals here and there or a couple times a week or whatever, you know, people shouldn't get too stuck into this all or nothing where it's like, I'll do 3 months of keto on, and then for 2 months, I'm just going to eat shit. Because that's like obviously not the way to do it, right? But I think something that's like, I'm going to eat really low carb or like keto for most of the time. And then maybe on the weekends, I'm just fine if I want like sweet potato fries or even French fries, right?
Yeah.
For me, I'll tend to do like a little bit higher carb here and there, but I still try to stay as low carb as possible for the metabolic benefits, because like our bodies, again, are not designed to have access to so many carbs, which is why keto is very ancestrally appropriate.
Exactly. I 100% agree.
What about you, Brent? Your new Austin diet, right? Since moving, we're not really calling it keto, but you just being around me, like if you try to get something with a lot of carbs, I'll shame you. So like I'm trying to keep you low carb, right? And you're obviously going to probably over the next 6 months, like really change and kind of fall into a routine that works for you. But we got you on a food delivery. We got you getting Snap Kitchen. We chose the paleo option, and really most of it's actually kind of low carb. Even like only a few things you might have like carbs.
Yeah,
right?
it's low carb because it's definitely like you can see it's not super calorie dense when it comes in.
Yeah.
It doesn't have a ton of calories. So I get like 5 days worth of food and I'll eat that in like 4 days. But the one thing that I have been sticking to is the fasting, at least. So that's
good.
Yeah, I've been doing a 4-hour window each day, and that's
Of eating.
if that, maybe a little bit less than that sometimes. So I've been able to stick to that. I have noticed more alertness and stuff like that in the morning.
Oh yeah,
So-
you're going to get a ton of mental benefit, but also it's going to help you with your appetite like crazy. Like you're just not going to have the same cravings. We're going to tape these things up. Next show, I just realized these things. So guys,
you
sorry.
keep hitting them, just don't touch them.
If you hear this, guys, I'm sorry, but we're going to tape the hell out of these things and fix that.
Mind blow. Maybe you just don't start playing with it in the middle of the show. I don't know.
Humans got to
What
move.
I do with my hands, I put them right here the whole time.
Yeah, but Brent, you've been fiddling with that pen. I'm about to shove it down your throat.
Yeah,
the whole
this
time.
doesn't do that to the table or hit the. We got the shock mounts, but they're not.
Guys, we're learning, okay? This is our 4th episode, and the content is golden, but we got to get a new sound engineer.
We're just kids.
I already was fired. What happened? Bye.
You're hired on as producer without knowing, and then you're fired as a producer without
No.
Okay, well, Logan, we appreciate you being here. Do you have a call to action or someplace where our audience can, get something from you, maybe a free ebook, or they can get on your email list, or, obviously they should follow you at Logan_Fusion Lean.
Yep.
Anything else?
Yeah. Oh, I mean, if people want like I say real guidance. I'm not going to act like I'm a master, but like I truly try and guide people.
Authentic guidance.
Yeah.
Yes, I can attest to that.
Authenticity is my YouTube channel. I post 4 days a week. And there is links to fusionlean.com, which they can enroll into their own Fusion Lean like guided meal and workout plan, full course format. But YouTube is mainly like where I'm literally trying to help people in every single way. Any keto question, I'm trying to get that answered.
So, guys, if you want to start keto or maybe even up your keto game, and you want it all done for you, no thought needed, just super simple way to do that, how would they do that, Logan?
Fusionlean.com.
And what would they do? Walk me through the steps.
So all you do is you just go to the site. You can take a quiz there to see what plan fits you. And once that's pulled up, it'll show you, okay, the Inferno plan fits you best from the information you provide.
That's going to have workouts. It's going to have meal plans.
Yeah.
It's going to have what else? What you can get in the? Don't you have a Facebook group?
Yeah, private Facebook group. It'll be full course guidance. There'll be cooking videos of like, hey, we're looking at meal number 1 for the day of this and this and this. And we literally cook the meals together.
That's awesome.
And there's, again, full course. We're like, okay, well, it looks like on day 1, we're going to be doing X, Y, and Z. So we need to focus on blah, 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 blah. So it's me literally holding their hand, going through this.
It's an education. It's a training program. It's also a done for you. You just follow the steps and you can get the results. And is it like a monthly plan, a quarterly? Like, what are they going to get if they sign up?
Yeah, it's going to be a 3-month plan. So
Okay.
12 weeks, month by month. And if you want to continue that, there's 5 other plan options that we can go to, tailored for maybe new goals that you have.
Yep.
So
Great, guys. Well, so if you've been on the fence about starting, whether it's keto or do they have to do keto? Obviously, it's keto geared,
well,
but you could still.
We can do carnivore, which is basically keto, but I have to capture my niche. Like I don't do non-keto, so I can't sell non-keto.
Well, what would that look like if someone just like wanted to eat a little bit more carbs?
Well, we can bring in a cyclical keto. So phase 3, we can bring into play where it's like 5 or 6 days on keto,
Right.
and about 1 or 2 off of keto.
Okay, cool. So definitely a lot of flexibility here. I think it's a great way to get started, and you're going to have the knowledge that you learn. You're going to basically have 3 months mapped out for you where you're going to kind of know what you could do for the rest of your life. You could literally just repeat that 3-month process if you wanted to, or you get on an advanced plan. At the very least, that knowledge is going to be invaluable. I can attest to Logan's content. He really simplifies it for you. He also walks the walk and talks the talk. He is in the kitchen every day. He's cooking. You do lives every time you cook too. So it's
Just about.
Yeah. So if you want to see him chomping on food while answering questions, then go over to Instagram at Fusion. Logan _Fusion Lane. Obviously, we'll drop links below.
You can also check the show notes. Yeah, they're there.
We'll be there. We'll be there. And so, Logan, thanks for coming on the show.
Yeah, absolutely.
If you had to give our audience one call to action, like one thing they could do, what would that be?
I'm going to give you my quote, and I'm going to give you the action. My quote that I read and say every day is, "It always seems impossible until it is done." It seems impossible to conquer brain cancer, but it always seems impossible until you actually take action to do it. So that's my quote, and my call to action is stop thinking and start doing, because a lot of people heavily overthink things, and they lose their position of being their own CEO in their life. They let their problems do that. They let their situation, their abilities, their disabilities, whatever. You are your own CEO. If you take action, that's creating the best version of yourself.
And I'll add a call to action for y'all. I think you should all go to your pantry and quite literally throw away everything that has grains in it, everything that has sugar in it. If you have a bag of sugar, throw it in the garbage, right? If you have grains or pasta or anything like that, you can donate it. If you have cans of garbage, cheap vegetables or soup or anything else with preservatives, any of the nonsense that almost everybody knows they shouldn't be eating, get rid of it. Donate it, right?
Dig in the trash can. Just put it outside.
Yeah. Well, what I like to do is I literally dump the bag or box out so I can't go back in the trash in case it's something tasty.
There you go.
Wow.
Hey, listen.
I just got a picture of Colin waking up at 2 a.m. Where is that donut? Just throw it in.
I have done things like that, and this is a perfect example though. We are humans. We are still animals, and we have primal instincts, and we have habits that we can succumb to, and so we have to control our environment. When the stuff is at your home, you will eat it. For me, if we have chocolate in the home, like Allison, Mom, they've had to find hiding places where I can't find.
Yeah, you have to hide it from yourself as well. I've had this conversation with them.
Right, but usually they hide it from me, and it's kind of weird. I develop a sixth sense, and I usually find it. Like I didn't look in the fridge for like 3 weeks, or the freezer, right? And then I was like, that's kind of interesting. I haven't looked in the freezer in 3 weeks. I opened the freezer, and there's like this whole thing of homemade ice cream that was right there. And I was like, jackpot! And I ate it. At least it was homemade, but still, like, I somehow like sniffed it out, right?
It's homemade.
Wow. Well, it was coconut milk, and it was stevia. So it was actually like one of the better desserts. But if that happened to be regular ice cream, I probably would have eaten it. Like, if it's there, I'm going to eat it.
Yeah.
Right. Brent, do you have anything to wrap up or any call to actions or questions for the audience?
You know what? If we're ready to go, I'm going to give us our little disclaimer. I'm trying to perfect this. But,
okay, good.
For now, the members of the Ancestral Mind Podcast are not dietitians or nutritional advisors. All dieting and eating comes with inherent risk. Please do not invest any more than you can afford to lose.
And consult your doctor.
Yes.
Any changes in your diet, especially if you're breastfeeding, pregnant, or on medication.
Yes. Or if you're in the future, because then you time traveled, and that's very strange.
And Logan is sharing his personal opinion and experiences, and he's not in any way recommending health or nutrition advice in any way.
If they're listening, they accepted the terms and conditions.
If you are listening to the show, you accept the terms and conditions, and you promise to not sue us. So thank you very much. Guys, make sure you like and subscribe. Send us an email, ancestralmind@gmail.com. Send us an email, info@wildfoods.co. You can talk to Logan. Find him on social. Find him on YouTube. Tell him thanks for getting on the show, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Share with your friends and family that will benefit from this episode, especially if you have anybody in your life that is battling cancer, has battled cancer. They need to really listen to this show, and they need to follow Logan. That's a wrap.
All right.
Cool.